Probably the two most iconic electric guitar sounds, the thick and powerful sound of humbuckers on a Les Paul guitar and the twang and sparkle of a Stratocaster's single coil pickups. As someone who's done quite a lot of work in function bands over the years, I know how useful it can be to be able to get more from less when it comes to your equipment. A lot of those covers gigs, a lot of bandmates and audiences can expect you to match really iconic guitar sounds like in a flash, as if you could like magically whip out a 59 Les Paul out of a hat or something. But even if you're not in a functions band, maybe you're on public transport and it's not convenient to carry two guitars. Or maybe you just don't want the hassle of switching guitars on stage all the time. Or maybe you just have one guitar and you have to make that work for everything. Whatever the reason, this is how I use a basic EQ pedal to revoice my pickups and at least give the impression that I'm playing a different type of guitar. I'm using a Boss GE7 here, but any graphic equalizer pedal should do, from a cheap old Behringer EQ700 to fancier stuff like the Source Audio EQ2 or a Boss EQ200. With those you can have stored presets, there's more frequency bands available. I'll put links to some of my favourites down in the description for you. First I'm going to try and get that bright open single coil sound out of this Les Paul. So for the high end, I find 3.2K is prime territory for that kind of sparkle frequency. So definitely add a little bit of that. I add a bit of the really high frequency as well, the 6.4K, for a bit of airiness. You could add more if you want, but I just find it can get a little bit ice picky and harsh, especially if you're on bridge pickup or using a lot of overdriven sounds. The low frequencies can be reduced for the single coil sound, but don't scrimp too much on the really deep low frequencies. I find cutting a bit less at 100 Hz retains a bit of fullness and helps give that impression of the mid-scooped Strat sound. It doesn't sound too anemic or anything. That's what can happen if you lower the really deep frequencies a bit too much. Last of all are the mid frequencies. I like to cut at 800 Hz. That takes away some of the humbucker aggression and punch and helps give a softer tone. So of course it's not exactly the same. There's quite a lot of difference in the compression and sustain of the sound as well. But I think when you compare it back to the regular Les Paul sound, it does help give that impression of a single coil Strat type sound. Make this Strat sound more like the beefy mid-focus sound of the humbuckers on the Les Paul. Before I do though, if you're finding this video useful, think about liking the video and maybe subscribing to the channel if you want to see more videos like this exploring guitar sounds. Anyway, for the high end, the sparkle on this Strat needs to be reduced without taking away too much clarity and sharpness of the sound. I find just smoothly and gently shelving the highs from about 3.2K works pretty well. A small boost to the low end at 200 Hz gives a bit more of that humbucker beef and weight to the sound. Tuning in the mid-range makes all the difference for me. Boosting the central mids at 800 Hz and the lower mids at 400 Hz really gives that more forward mid-focus sound that most people associate with humbuckers. Again, it's never going to be exactly the same. There's so many differences in like scale length, in the body shape, that makes me think there's no substitute for the real thing at the end of the day. But when you're in a pinch, I think there's certain situations where using an EQ pedal like this can be really useful. On a Strat, I find probably the most useful application of it is to make the bridge pickup on a Strat easier to get along with, particularly with overdriven sounds. See if you can hear what I mean. There are other options for this, like pickups with coil taps or pedals that are more dedicated to emulating different pickup types or guitar types. One of those pedals is the Keys Tone Exchanger. Another is the Sim XT Plus. I'll put links to those down in the description as well. But let me know in the comments if this way of using an EQ pedal is something that you find useful, or do you have a different method of getting the sound of different pickups or guitars? Let us know.